All right, real quick, redo the intro, not as long. Welcome to night 5, officially over halfway. I remember to press record. Tonight will be a kind of continuation of night 4, but in a much more simpler, intuitive drag and drop way that is Tableau. So if you were confused last Wednesday, I promise it'll be much easier tonight. But to kick things off, we're actually going to talk through how to connect live data, which I think is one of the coolest things that we do in this class, because this really gives you the opportunity to see how, well, one, gives you the opportunity to make it your own. We've worked with some different data sets before. I know a couple of people have brought in like their own personal data before, but this will really kind of unlock the connection of how to build a true live dashboard. I always talk a lot about the 2 categories in data viz. You have the exploratory data analysis, and then you have kind of like live reporting. The exploratory data analysis is totally fine if it's a stale, what I call, data set, like the Superstore data, or some of the data sets you guys have found out online. It is data. Sometimes it's up to this year, sometimes it goes back a couple of years. It's totally fine to go in, get your hands dirty, and start understanding what the data is showing you. However, once you go to use that data in your business, you want to track how it's performing, and you want to be able to keep up with it real time, whether that's monthly, daily, hourly, or true live, like down to the second. That is kind of the second form of Tableau, not just presenting your findings, but actually monitoring your performance moving forward. So we're going to do I was going to say fake example, but it's a real example. We're actually going to create a Google Sheet, which is what we'll be using as our database, just because it's easy for all of us to collaborate on it together. We'll go in, we'll add some data in there. We will publish it to Tableau Public. Then we'll go back in, add more data to it, and see how it refreshes. And then the homework for next week will essentially be build something that you want to track in your life or your business. Whether that could be, like fitness goals, how often I'm walking every day, whether it could be kind of a calendar, like here are the chores I want to do. If any of you guys have kids, I've had people in the past do like a chore chart so their kids can go out and look and see kind of a leaderboard if you're doing those chores throughout the week. It could be a budget, something like that. But yeah, I think it's more fun to work with live data and track performance real time, as opposed to the exploratory data. You find your insights, you publish it, you talk someone through it, and you never really look at it again. So we'll get into that to start. Thank you everyone for sending me the homework. I think everyone has. I'll have to go through and check the attendance sheet. But you can see, hopefully that was a good homework assignment to see just how powerful Tableau functions are. If there's ever something you think you should be able to do, there's probably a way to do it in Tableau. But now the super exciting show and tell to start. So we will not be doing that section tonight, and instead we will be doing the kind of live data exercise together. Cool. Any questions about last week, the night, anything? Cool. Let's get into it. So I'm going to be driving here. I will create the Google Sheet. I will send it out to you guys. You guys will add to it. Then I'll pull it in. I'll make the viz, and I'll publish it to Tableau Public. So you don't need to worry about following along. If you want to take some notes just to remember how to do this later, feel free to do that. But we're not going to create 12 different sheets here. We'll just do one altogether. So don't worry about following along. So if you have a Google account, which I think most people do, if you don't, completely free to make. You can make one in Google Drive. We're just going to go in and we're going to do a new Google Sheet. And we're going to title this ODSA Fall 2024, night number 5. And then we're going to make this just really, really simple. We're going to go name, favorite chart. I've done a fruit example in the past. It's just kind of boring. So I'm doing a different scenario live here. And then just so you guys don't have to worry about overlapping with each other, I'm going to copy and paste the attendance list here. So go in, and let's add right here, Charlie. Let's choose between, just keep it easy because we're going to make we'll make a bar chart or something. choose between, what is going on? Options. A bar chart, just type bar if you like bar charts, line if you like line charts, and pie if you like pie charts. So go in, find your name, type in here, I really like bar charts, and then give, it doesn't matter, we just need some data to work with. So I'm going to give a bar it's like a 9.2 out of 10. I really like bar charts. Okay. So I'm going to share this link in the Slack channel. Only people with access can open the link. Anyone with the link. We're going to make you guys editors. Copy the link. All right. I just dropped the Google Doc link in the Slack channel. So go out, click into that, come to this sheet, type in whatever you want to type in. You guys are speedy. Cool. I think we're good for now. I know, yeah, DeForest, Xavier, Yarlene, if you want to give a quick score here, and then Chris are all not going to be here, so that's fine. All right, now I'm going to open up Tableau Public. And instead of connecting it to Microsoft Excel, like we've done in the past, I'm going to go, this is to a file, right? So to a file means that it is a static file. You download it, you create it or whatever, it's your file. Obviously, you can go in and update it and save it. But since it's not on the server, no one else can go in and do anything with it. So on to a server, we're going to click More, and we're going to choose Google Drive. I do not know what OData is, and I do not know what Web Data Connector is, but it's deprecated, so don't ask me. But again, just to connect the dots here, if I open up my Tableau server that I use at work, and I were to click connect to a server, you can see there's literally hundreds of different servers that you can connect to. Google BigQuery, Postgres, Salesforce, Snowflake, Amazon, Box, Databricks, all sorts of different things here. So we're going to choose Google Drive. You just double click it. And it is going to ask you to authenticate. So what you're doing here is you are signing in to Google Drive so that it can continue as you in Tableau. Okay, Tableau created this window to authenticate it. It is now safe to close it. So now I have a drop down here, connect to Google Drive. Here is everything that is in my Google Drive. And I feel like I have to give you the background story of why I have a folder called 3D Brains, so you guys don't think I'm a serial killer. My senior research project in college was actually, I was a physics major, and I was partnering with a biology major who then went on to med school. She went on to get her PhD in neuroscience. She was really interested in brains. She wanted to create a website that would allow schools that didn't have access to like cadavers to work with to actually be able to hold a physical brain in their hand. So we actually scanned a whole bunch of brains. It was really, really cool. Also really, really weird. 3D scanned them and printed them and uploaded the STL files for free. so that anybody across the country could print a brain and pass it around the classroom and wouldn't have to worry about, dissecting things. We did all sorts of different brains. It was really weird. I'm not sure if that was a good explanation, if you guys think I'm weird or not weird now, but I couldn't just, this is published on YouTube, I had to give some background story there so the FBI doesn't come looking for me. Okay, so there will be a,
Share with me.
Oh, right here. ODSA fall 2024, night number 5. It's .g sheet, just means that's a Google Sheet. So I'll go ahead and click onto that. And now, just like before, right, it automatically brought in sheet 1. We have, whoops, did I close out my sheet? I was just in everything. If I had different tabs in there, just like we had with our Superstore data, I would have different options of tables to bring in, but we just have this one. So that's why that's in there. We're going to, give me 1 second, I'm going to clean up my browsers a bit here so I stop clicking around. Okay, so we can see right here, we have name, favorite chart, score, and then the options. Obviously, I just typed in there so you guys would know what to type. So let's go ahead and create something. Let's just go favorite chart onto our columns. And let's go score right here. And let's change that to an average. So there's one chart, and let's make another one. Let's just call this average scores. Then let's create another one just for fun.
How did you change it to average?
Yeah, so if you just click on this little drop down here, it will say measure. So what are you measuring here? And it gives you options here. So by default, it just chooses sum, which is typically what we work with in this class just because it's easy. But you can choose average, counts, medians, all sorts of different things. Also, another kind of fun Tableau tip and trick. If you don't want to every single time drag it over and then choose the button and then change it to average like that, if you left drag, so instead of, right drag, instead of holding down with your left button, hold down with your right button, it will automatically pop up this little option and you can just choose average there. Saved you like 1 click, but clicks that up. Okay, and this one, instead of average score, let's just do a count. And let's change this to favorite charts. And then let's just go ahead and remove the null. So we're gonna drag favorite charts onto filters and just uncheck null. All right, we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time making these pretty because it's not the point of this, but let's just real quick create a dashboard. Let's do average scores and favorite charts. Let's get rid of this null as well. All right, we know that this isn't pretty. Hopefully, you guys have been with me for 4 weeks now, or 4 nights. There's a lot of different things I would change about this, but for the sake of this example, let's call it good. So we're going to save it. Lame. What are the odds of getting it right the first try? Oh, sweet. Okay, and you see this little checkbox here? Keep my data in sync with the data source and embed my credentials. So this is a new option that doesn't typically pop up here, at least I don't think so. That is going to embed my credentials when I publish it to Tableau Public, which means now Tableau Public will be able to access my Google Sheet. And keeping it in sync will just means that it will live pull the data in and keep it updated, not just leave it static or stale like how it is now. So if I click save, and do, it's gonna ask me to, oh, sorry, I should have brought it over. It's just asking me to authenticate again. All right, we're good to go. And now, in Tableau Public, we have our chart that we just made. Okay, now we're gonna go back to the Google Sheet. So if everyone could go back there. If you need the link again, just go back to Slack or whatever. And we are going to add in our second favorite chart. So I just made you another line, only this time our options are going to be Gantt, dual axis, and table. So go ahead, same thing, add one of those three, give it an arbitrary score. Cool. Now, drum roll. I've done this before where it hasn't worked, so I'm getting a little nervous right now. But here's our chart. At the bottom here, it says data is refreshed through 6:17 p.m. It is now 6:18. So we're gonna go request data refresh. When I press this button, it's gonna go out to Google Sheets and bring in the latest data and populate our chart. So I just want to give it a couple more seconds here to make sure everything is updated in here. And I'm going to click this button. Data request refresh it, refresh the page, see the updated viz, hit refresh. Boom. Okay, so halfway worked. Oh, and I know why it only halfway worked. Perfect. Okay, so we have our average scores here, and now you can see we didn't have to change anything about the chart. We didn't have to do anything inside of our desktop app. It pulled in the new data, and now it says, hey, we now have average scores for the dual axis, the Gantt, and the table as well, and those automatically populated in here. Now, does anyone remember or know or can guess why this top chart didn't update? We did one thing when
we filtered.
Yep, exactly. So we didn't think this through very well. In our chart here, where we had our favorite charts, remember we wanted to get rid of the nulls. So we chose just bar, line, and pie. Now if I go in and click data, hover over here and click refresh, this is just going to refresh my data on my desktop app. Hit yes. You can see my filter updated there, so there's data in there. But when I published it, I said, hey, just give me bars, lines, and pies. So it filtered out all the new data that we added in there. So here's another little Tableau tip and trick. You can choose what things to include, like we just did, like, hey, we're going to include everything but null. There's also an option to choose things that you want to exclude. So if I bring favorite chart onto filters, and instead, and I check this exclude button, now anything that I click will be excluded instead of included. And this is a perfect use case of why you want to do that. Maybe you don't know what data is going to be coming in, and every time new data comes in, you don't want to have to go in and select it in your filter. You just know that I'm never going to want null values, so I'm just going to exclude that.
Can you refresh the data again?
In the desktop app?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go, if you click under data at the top and hover, there's a refresh button. It looks like F5 is the hotkey if you just want to press that. You can also right click on your table here and hit refresh right there. So some use cases I use this in. I'm not going to pull up a real dashboard from Builder Trend just because this is recorded and live. But we use this for like our monthly pacing numbers. So every single day we can see how many people have signed up, how many people have canceled, how many people have upgraded. So throughout the course of the month, we can see if we're on track to hit our goals. The sales team uses stuff like this a lot. So we connect to Salesforce directly. So every time a new sales come in, it'll automatically be updated. They can filter it out by individual rep or by like team. So they can play games throughout the week. I think the top team every week gets a bonus, stuff like that. Obviously in Tableau server, one kind of annoying thing about Tableau public is you have to go in and click this request data refresh button. I also think that you maybe only get a certain amount of refreshes a day. So it's not quite live, right? You still have to do one thing to update it. But in like Tableau server or Tableau cloud or some of their paid versions, that just automatically gets pulled in for you. So every time something comes in, it automatically pops up there.
Mine doesn't show the refresh part at the data type.
Oh, it doesn't show this line here? Interesting. Does it give you an option to click refresh right here? Interesting. Oh, maybe because so I think go back to your desktop app and do yeah, go back to your dashboard and click file and then go save to Tableau public as. I'm just gonna create a second one. Sorry, one down from that. Save to Tableau public as. Yep. And you can just call this like test. You got to make sure you click that button.
Yeah, this did not show at first.
Oh, really? Interesting. Weird.
Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Any other questions? Sweet. If you guys, again, the only reason I use Google Sheets is so that we can all collaborate on it together. So if you want to share with someone, feel free to do that. If I were to just, if I didn't want to use Google Sheets and I like Excel, or I just want to keep it on my local and don't want to publish it out somewhere or something like that, the same concept persists kind of no matter what. So if I were to go to, I'm just going to go ahead and close out of this. I'm going to open up an Excel. You guys don't need to follow along. This is just a just an example. All right, I'm going to save this to my okay, so I have this Excel saved, right? I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to open up Tableau Public. I can Microsoft Excel. Bring in that thing I just created. Right, something like this, Charlie bar score. If I were to reopen that Excel, and add something to this, hit save, close it out. Now remember how we refresh the data? We can go in, file, or sorry, data, sheet one, refresh. It brings in that second row. So it's still, that refresh option can work, again, if you just want to work locally. But Google Drive, obviously you can embed your credentials, you can edit it online, someone else can edit it, you can refresh it on Tableau Public. But if you just want to work locally on your laptop without publishing there, that same concept of refreshing your data can work in just Microsoft Excel or any other data source that you're bringing in. So does that make sense? Any questions? There he is.
Can we, so even though we make our Google Sheet accessible publicly, people would still need a link to that. That is never exposed by Tableau Public, right? So for example, when I was at Dumpana Labs, we had this concept called Fishbowl.
Mm-hmm.
which essentially used fish's names to describe the employees so that we could see
Oh.
how much hours of billable time we have without knowing who's who.
Yeah.
But you could find your own fish name and know how you did.
Right.
So for example, my company is on my third version, but I have a bunch of data from my second version of my company, which I never really analyzed.
Yeah.
And I could add a fish name for each of the clients and then
Yeah.
analyze it.
Just to anonymize it. Yeah.
But as long as the URL wasn't available to
Yeah, no one can go into, I think they can see,
because I'm not really worried about the data output, like people found it and were like, oh, that's how much money you made. I'd be like,
Right.
yeah, I did. It doesn't show you how much money I lost. But
yeah, right. I want to see, I think it will show just the name of the sheet, but no one would be able to go in.
Click through to it.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I don't even think they, yeah. They can't even see the name of the sheet, so you're good.
Okay, awesome.
But with the new version of Tableau Public, you can just save it locally too, work that way.
Okay.
Cool, any questions for anyone online?
Is there a way to disconnect your drive from Tableau?
Yeah, so every time you, it's just one-to-one per sheet. So anytime that you create a new sheet, it will make you re-authenticate again. It's not like a live connection. And the only thing that has access in Tableau Public right now is this one because I put embed credentials. So if I were to delete this one, it would delete that and nothing else. None of my other sheets or Tableau Public itself have access to it. The connections.
I got a quick question. So when I go to the data source, it shows the updated data with, dual access, table, Gantt, or all that information. But when I go into average scores, favorite charts, dashboard, even when I refresh, none of that will pull into either of those charts.
Interesting.
But in the data source, if I go there, it shows there's 4 fields, 28 rows now. So that's updated, but again, it won't refresh in my charts right next to it.
Do you have any filters on there?
Like on what?
In the sheet, do you have anything up in your filters pane?
It just shows sheet 1. I don't see any filters on it. Yeah, filter 0. It shows in the top right.
But like if you click into sheet 1, is there anything up here?
Oh shoot, let me check. Yeah, okay, favorite chart.
Yeah, so go and just drag that off.
I got it, okay. There we go, yep.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. Good question. All right. So that was the show and tell. I know a couple people popped in late, so if you want to go back and watch that, just teaching you how to connect Tableau dashboard to a live data set. And part of the homework will be creating some sort of live tracker using something you want to track. Number of steps walked in a day, number of calories eaten, how many hours you slept, how much money you spent, chores for your kids, stuff like that. So be thinking as we go through here what you want to track and how you want to show it. And that'll be a really cool homework assignment to start thinking about how you want your data structured to make it easy to visualize. Okay, so that's what we just did. Tonight, we're going to be talking about quick table calcs. So just like I said in the beginning, last week we talked through really the nitty gritty on how to build some of these calculated fields and level of detail calcs by hand, which was, I know, confusing for a lot of people. Tonight will be, just like the name says, quick table calcs, how to do that really, really quickly. It's really powerful. I use it a ton. It's really easy. And I think will make Wednesday make more sense and you'll have a better understanding because you actually know what's going on in the background as well. Covered all that. And then last bullet point, I know I say this pretty much every week, but we're just continuing to build on top of our kind of skill set. This is just another thing that's going to continue to take your database skills to the next level. We already did that. I'm so ahead of the times. Aren't you glad we didn't have to look through all of these PowerPoint slides? Okay. So I think I really like the routine that we're in, of just doing it live as opposed to going through the PowerPoint. And I know I've said this before, and I know other teachers say this, but you guys are my favorite class I've ever had. I haven't been able to go through stuff live with other classes before. We had to really go through the lesson and then show the examples and then go through it again. So you guys are overachievers. It makes the class is way shorter because we don't have to double up everything. So thank you for that. I just wanted to continue to let you guys know how much I appreciate you. So, and it's way more fun for me. I like working in Tableau. I don't like working in PowerPoint. So we are going to go ahead and open up our Superstore data just like always. If you have your live data set that we just got done with, make sure you save that, close out of it, start a new one. We are going to open up Tableau Public and bring in our Superstore data just like always. Bring in our orders just like always, and pop on over to sheet 1. That's not really great for me. Okay, so last week we did something like, let's go ahead and pull in category on the rows, subcategory on the rows, and then let's do sales on the columns, and then let's just go ahead and change that to a table. So we should be looking something like that. Right, last week we did something like this. You don't need to follow along because I'm going to delete it right away. But we did fixed category, some sales. That might get confusing. All right, remember last week we did this, so we had, here's all of our sales by our subcategories, and then we grouped everything up to the category level. And the reason that we did that was then we could do sales divided by category sales. Right, so we had, okay, here's how many bookcases we had, here's how much we had for the category, and here's our percent of sales. So we were doing like a percent of the total, and to do that, we had to do a level of detail calc. We had to create 2 calculated fields. It was confusing, we got lost in what we were actually trying to do along the way, but we did it. Tonight, what we're gonna do is we are going to change, I'm trying to think the best way to do this. Let's just hit right click on our sum of sales right here. Or not right click, sorry, hit the arrow. See the second to last option here, it says quick table calc. We have all these options here, running total, difference, percent difference. That was another example we did last week. Remember we did a lag or a lookup feature to see what the previous one was, so we can compare to. We're going to choose percent of total right here. And then let's go ahead on our measure values here. The order that they appear here is the order they're in our table. So let's drag our new one that we just created towards the bottom. And then let's bring sum of sales back on top here. So just bring sales over again. And I'm going to talk through what we're doing here. So now we have our sum of sales, we have our category sales here, and we have our percent of the category here, and we have our percent of total here. Now, who can tell me or has a guess of why these two numbers aren't the same? I said that this was percent of category, and I said there's a quick, easy way to do it. We click percent of total. Why aren't these the same now?
Percent of total of all categories, and that's it.
Bingo. So this is showing the true percent of total. So it's showing all of these summed up, and what percentage 114 is of that is about 5%. This is showing just that 742 number and the percent of all these summed up together. So this is 742, 114 is 15% of that. So how do we change that? How do we get what we want? There's two buttons in here. The one we just covered was quick table calc, right? We chose percent of total. And then another little thing too, indicator. See how this has this little triangle here? That just means that it's a calculated field or quick table calc or something like that. It's not just one of our normal measures. So we have sum of sales here with no triangle. That's just this one. And then we have our sum of sales with a triangle. That's this one. So we click back into that quick table calculation. We have percent of total. We're going to keep that. If we choose hover over or compute using, there's all these different options here. The only four that you ever really need to worry about is table across and table down. Pane, if I had multiple things in my columns instead of multiple things in my rows, it would give me pane across and pane down. All that means is if I choose table, it's going to choose everything on the table. If I choose pane, it's going to choose everything inside each one of these panes. So anytime you have like a little row or a little line dividing each one of these, this section here is a pane. This section here is the table. If I were to go down, I'm summing up everything in the pane down, everything in the table down, everything in the pane across, everything in the table across. So we're going to change that to pane down. Now we can see that these match up. We have the 15.48 here, which is again the sum of sales divided by the 742 number. But I don't need 742 on every single slide or on every single number, right? And I don't need a second calculated field that I made based on another calculated field. I can just really easily pull that in. I have, here's all my sales, and here's the percent of total. Now, yeah, Patrick.
When you went to go select those options, it also said category and subcategory. Is that because you have those two selected up top, or is that just a default option that we should ignore?
Yep, it's both. It is the same options. So the question was, right, when I have compute using, you can see I also have cell, which
And then category and subcategory.
category and subcategory. Yeah, these are because I have category and subcategory here, right? If I had region here, then that would give me region and subcategory. They are the same in this instance as the pane, right? So
Okay.
if I group by this, it is now grouping by region, which is also grouping by the pane. The only reason I ignore those, there's probably a use case when they're different, or else they wouldn't have both of them in there. But I always just go by pane and table across and down, as opposed to try to memorize which things I have on my table and when to use them and when not to use them.
Okay.
I'm going to change this back to subcategory. Okay, I'm going to build another one just to show you guys. We'll get some repetition in here. So now let's do region on columns, category on columns. Let's go profit on our text field here. And then all we would need to do, if we want percent of total, this looks different, but it's functioning the same, right? Let's do a quick table calc and change this to percent of total. Then we can bring our sales back on the text too as well if we want. Now if we go compute using, which one would we want to choose?
Pane across.
Pane across, bingo. We now see our panes are right here, whereas the previous one was pane down, because we were summing all these up down. We're now going across, and we just want the panes, right? Here's furniture, office supplies, technology. So these are summing these up. Oh, whoops, I just realized I had profit. That's what it says. There we go. Summing all these up for a percent of the total. If we did want to know, maybe we also want to bring it in again. So here's another annoying thing. If I just try to drag sum of profit onto my measure values, it doesn't let me because I already have it here. So you kind of have to change it first and then bring it back on there, if that makes sense. So this one I have, right, it's a quick table calc, it's a percent of total, is compute using pane across. Let's make this one a quick table calc as well, percent of total, and let's compute this one using table across. And then we can bring our profits back onto here as well. Whoops. So now I have, here's my profits. This is the percent of our profits for the furniture. Actually, it's in the wrong order. Percent of our profits in the furniture. Here's our percentage of profits across the whole thing. And a good way to double check it is always just highlight them all. And then where it says sum of measure value, 12 items selected, sum of measure value equals 1. That just means that it's adding up to 100%, right? Whereas this one, I would only have to highlight these 4. If I sum them all up, the sum of measure value is 3, right? 300%, you'll have 100%. Then the last thing, and I know there's probably questions, but the last thing I'd show is this is a great example of when you use an alias, right? Because who wants to see these things? Percent of total profits across pane, right? All you have to do is right click that and choose edit alias. And let's just call this percent. So this is across the pane, right? So percent of category sales. And then this is across the table. So I change this to percent of all sales. All right, questions? Yeah.
The measure names, does it pop up on mine, like in those?
Yeah. So I just do this every time by default. I never think about it, so shame on me. But I always just go category, region. I just bring in like whatever I want and then just change it to a table. But though, if measure values will only pop up if you have multiple things. Like if I just have one of these things, then it just gives me that. But if I bring in 2, I think I can do. Yeah, then it brings everything in there. kind of annoying as well too. Yeah, so I always just bring a couple things in there to start. Category, region, sales, profit, whatever. Then just click the table button here and it gives you what you need.
Okay.
Other questions? All right. Well, the good news is we're going to do that 6 more times. So we will get a very solid understanding of it. We're going to go through and we are going to create, I'll just show you what we're going to make right now. We're going to make a monster table that has all of the different quick table calcs in there all at once. So like I said, we'll do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, it was like 7 times. And we'll talk through each one of these one by one. The good news is it's the same exact process every single time, just choosing a different table calc here. Whereas before, right, doing what we did last Wednesday, we would have had to make at least 7 different calculated fields, and then most times another calculated field off of those. So we would have had to make 14 different calculated fields, all with different syntax, sometimes with colons, sometimes with commas. Name them all, remember the names of them all, create new fields, drag them over. Whereas this, it's very, very simple. It's exactly what we just did every single time. So I'm going to make it exactly like my PowerPoint here. So this is category and subcategory. So let's go ahead and get started here. Bring in category. And if you lost your spot up to this point, that's totally fine because we're going to start over. Let's go category on rows, subcategory on rows. And then let's just do just what I was saying with before us. Let's go sales up here. Let's go profit up here. So it should look like this. Category, subcategory, sales, profit, and then just go show me table. So now we have our nice little table with our measure values here. Everyone here so far? Patrick, you look confused.
It's just because all my fields look the same, but my graph doesn't. Okay, nope, I got it. For some reason, it wasn't on automatic, and it was forcing something else.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so the first one's going to be really easy because we've covered it a million times now, but just for the sake of being complete, let's do what we just did. Quick table calc, percent of total, and then click back into that same one. Quick table calc, or sorry, compute using paying down. So we know what this one is, obviously. We're gonna go through and talk about each one of these so we understand what we're actually doing. But this one, I think everyone's well aware. This is the percentage of all category sales. And then we're just going to bring sales back onto measure values because we're gonna need to, just like I talked about, we're gonna have to add it every time, change it every time, add it every time, change it every time. And let's go ahead and make this the entire view. So right up here at the top, instead of standard, just select entire view because we're gonna be making this really big. And before we get going too far ahead, let's go ahead and change the name of this one so we don't lose track of what we're doing. So let's right click into this, edit alias, and go percent of category sales. Oh, it tells me I already have that one named that way. So if you guys got the same error, I'm not going to go back and delete the other one I changed this to. So I'm just going to change it to a percent side. All right, everyone with me so far? Cool. All right, so now sales again. We're going to hit the arrow, quick table calc. We're going to change this to a running total. Let's change this also to compute using pane down. And then again, bring sales, just sum sales back onto your measure values. We're gonna do that every time, drag it at the top every time, so that we always have our kind of base column here. And our base column here. And I guess at this point we can get rid of profit too. We're just gonna be working with sales. All right, so now we have our sales here. What is this new quick table calc doing? Anyone? Any guesses?
Keeping the running total of the sales to the left of it, so it's adding bookcases and chairs. That's how you get the 443. Then you add the 91. That's how you get 535, and then just keep following that down.
Bingo. So this is doing a running sum of sales. This title is actually pretty descriptive. Along the pane down. So it's taking this and adding it to everything that's above it. So right now we have nothing above it. Now we have 328 plus everything above it, right? Because it's a running total. So 443, that's our 443. And it's taking 91. 535 is the total. And then the reason, because we're going just along the pane, once we get to the bottom of the pane, right? So remember 742, that was our total when we created that category sales. At the very bottom, you can now see, okay, here's all of our sales in this instance. Then it resets, and now we're on the office supplies. Appliances start here, and it goes down this way as well. There's your 719. And technology at the bottom here, there's our 836. So let's go ahead and rename this. Right click, edit alias. Dropped my phone 3 times now. And we'll just call this running total. All right, now we're going to change our sales again. So on our measure value, the top one here, hit the arrow, quick table calc. The second one here, we just did running total, is difference. Let's click into that again. Again, it's the top one. Compute using, pane down. And then remember, we got to bring our sales back on measure values, drag it at the top again, as always. So here's our running total on the second right, percent of category sales on the far right, sales, and then here's our new one that we just made. This is taking, again, the default descriptions are actually pretty helpful. Difference in sales from the previous along the pane going down. So it's taking, we don't have anything above 114, so that's 0. This is taking the difference from the previous. So it's looking at 328 minus 114. Those difference subtraction is 213. So this row is 213 more than the previous row. Remember last week, if we wanted to do that, we would have had to do lookup, sum of sales minus 1. Remember to grab the previous row, to bring it down to this row, and then create a calculated field to subtract the two from each other. Now this is just doing that by default. So 91,000 minus 328, right? 91,000 is 236,000 less than the previous one. Now, the reason I'm doing subcategory and subcategory is just because it's really easy and it's simple and we've worked with it a ton and they have nice little groupings. Obviously, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense here to do that. Difference in sales, that would typically be, right, if you wanted to look at like group by months, do the previous month or something like that. Same with kind of the running total, you typically want to see that along like a nice little like date range, add stuff up over time. But just for the sake of simplicity, we're just doing it in this table view here. All right, so let's rename this. Edit alias, right? right click, edit alias. We'll just call this one difference in sales. Let's do, yeah, we'll get through all of these and we'll take a break. All right, so now we're gonna change our top sales again. Hit the arrow, quick table calc. We've done running total, we've done difference. We're gonna do now percent difference. So we're clicking into that. It should have updated our top sales one there. So bring sales back into measure values at the top, just so we have our base. Here's the 3 that we've created. Here's the new one we just created. Here's our sales as a standard. This one is very, very similar to difference in sales. Although if we did it the way last week, we would have had to make yet another calculated field to bring it in. This is just looking at the percent difference. So 328 is 185% bigger than 114. 91,000 is 72%, negative 72% of 328, so on and so forth. However, you can see now, just to keep things consistent, this is populated here, which is an immediate red flag that we're doing table down, which we are because I forgot to go in and update it. So just to keep things consistent, let's just keep doing compute using pane down. Let's change the alias. Percent difference. Sales. All right, we have 3 more. So we're going to change our top sales again. Quick table calc. We've done running total, we've done difference, we've done percent difference, we've done percent of total. That was our first one. Now we're going to do rank. Rank is a really fun one that I actually use quite a bit. So we updated that. Now we have our rank in our top one. So remember, let's bring sales back into the top measure values, just so we have our foundation here. And now you can see we have numbers here, 1 through 17, right? There are 17, oops. Yep, 17 different items in here. This is ranking them from greatest to smallest. So we can see 330 is the biggest number that we have in here. We can see 3,024 is the smallest number. So this is just going around. What I use rank for a ton, one is if you automatically want to sort by something, or if you just want to truly understand what the rank is. But we had a conversation on night 2 or 3 about coloring and kind of getting a good range of different colors in there. Maybe sometimes I want to color based on, I just want a consistent gradient from greatest to smallest, and I don't want it to be super orange if it's really small and super blue, but I just want it to be consistent. I'll drag rank on the color a lot so that it's just a consistent gradient. For the biggest one is the brightest green, and the smallest one is the brightest red, and everything is consistent in between. But this is just a way to rank things. Again, let's go in and change it. It's the second one here. Compute using pane down. So now we just have 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's our top ranks by furniture. Here's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, our top ranks in office supplies. And again, our 1, 2, 3, 4 top ranks in technology. So we can edit the alias here. And let's just change this to category rank. All right, second to last one here. We're going to be changing our very top sales. Hit the arrow, quick table calc, percentile. So you can see that updated. Bring sales back onto the top of measure value for our foundation. And now someone asked about this last week. I think the difference between we were working with percent of total and we saw a percentile there, right? This is the percentiles are based on all the values that you have here, kind of similar to rank. What percentile or in what percent of all the values is that single value? So our top one here, that 330,000, right? Our number one rank, you can see that is in the 100th percentile, which is mean it's bigger than everything in there. It's our very, very top one. However, fasteners 3,000, that's in the 0th percentile. So nothing is bigger than that one, right? If you got a 3600 ACT, you'd be in the 100th percentile or whatever. If you got a 4.0, 100 percentile. If you got a 3.0, you're in like the 90th percentile, stuff like that. It's just a different way of measuring instead of by numerical rank here, showing based on all the different values that we have, what percentile are you in. Any questions on percentiles as a whole? Not necessarily this specific concept, but just like what they're measuring. Okay, so we'll change this one to, again, it's the second one there. We just changed compute using pane down. So now I just like the consistency here. And then we're gonna change this edit alias, category, percentile, category, percentile. All right, very last one, we're gonna change our top sales, this very top one again, hit the arrow, quick table calc, moving average. You see that updated, bring sales back onto the top in our measure values for our foundation. And then change our second one from compute using instead of table down, just pane down. So now this is what this is looking at. It's just one by one, similar to a running total. We start with 114,000. That's our average sales across furniture. Then we bring this one in and it looks at these two. So that's 400,000, right? If you divide by 2, it's about 220. Here's our 220, so that's the new average. Then we bring in 90,000, so the moving average is going to go down a little bit, right? Then we bring in 206,000, so the moving average is going to go up a little bit. And then it starts over because we're just computing it pane down. So the last thing we're going to do, edit alias, we'll just call this moving average. Maybe category sales moving average. Cool. And just like that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different quick table calcs. Didn't have to create any new calculated fields. Didn't have to create any level of detail calcs or anything like that. Same exact process every single time. Before we go to break, I just want to show you a couple of use cases of when you use these, because I know the table is really, really good for like visualizing what's happening, but not a great use case of when you would do this. So let's just pick like running total and moving average or something like that. You don't need to follow along with this if you don't want. I'll go quick. But if we just had order date up here, let's just change this to month here. And then we had our total sales in here. Right, here's our sales every single month. I could also bring sum of sales back onto here and change this from a just sum of sales to a quick table calc running total. So now, like this is something you use all the time. We had 14,000 sales in January, and then 4,000 sales in February. So you can see we went from 14,000 to 18,000, and over time here, we've done 2 million in sales, right? So that's like a good use case for a running total here. Maybe you want to know what your average sales are. So this is another thing that we do a ton. Any like business that operates month to month, you have some variability in there, right? 1 month you do 70,000, 1 month you do 4,000. So maybe you just want to do what's our moving average. So quick table calc, moving average. So you can see there's a little variability. There's definitely some seasonality here. But this is just saying, okay, over time, our average is getting slightly higher here. But you can see it's kind of operates somewhere between that kind of $60,000 to $20,000 range. Any questions on those use cases? Cool. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back and go through some more quick table calcs. So let's be back here at 7:18.
Yo, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I was completely lost because my my portable screen was on the fritz, and you know how when you go to like sales, the sidebar, and when you click down, like quick table right there,
Yep.
that wasn't popping up. So then when I was trying to fix that, you guys were already on the fourth one. How do I get them sideways? Because they're just stacking up.
Yeah. If you, so like right now, they probably look like, like this. Is that right?
Yeah.
Where they're stacking up, like each time you drag something over there, it adds on this way.
Yep.
I think you should just be able to go in and click show me and click that table, and it should fix it for you.
Jesus Christ.
Did it or no?
Yeah, that's why you're the professor, man. Jesus.
There you go. Well, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. Oh. All right, 7:18, let's get back into it. I know that this is a lot. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I hope you're mentally kind of connecting the dots because I know this is a data viz class and we're not doing a whole lot of visuals right now. But we can only make visuals out of the data that we have on hand. And 99.9% of the time, the data isn't perfectly made for how we need it. So we have to get used to working with data, changing data, reconfiguring data, reformatting data. I think there's a word called munging data. Let me double check that. Munging data. Data wrangling, sometimes referred as data munging, is mapping it from the raw format to another format. So please keep sticking with me. There's going to be countless times throughout your life working with data where you want to make a chart and you want to make a visual, but it's not in the right format and you're going to have to use one of these. So I promise tonight will be the last night where we're really super heavy on kind of the data engineering stuff, but it will set you up for success moving forward on everything else that you're working on. So we're going to go through the last four here, which you can see are grayed out currently. Year-to-date total, compound growth. Actually, we're not going to cover compound growth rate because it's confusing, and you don't need it unless you're going to be a stockbroker. But year-to-date total, year-over-year growth, and year-to-date growth. So we're going to cover the last three there, which are in a nice line chart visual. So at least stop working with tables here. But we should be able to cover those pretty easily in the next 40 minutes, probably less. And then that will give us time to start working on kind of our personal data project for the homework for Wednesday. So that'll be the plan. Let me double check my PowerPoint to make sure we don't have anything else in here. Nope, that'll do it. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new sheet here. In this one, we are going to take our order date, drag it onto columns. It's okay that it's years. We're going to leave that as is for now. But we're also going to take order date and drag it up there again. And this one, change it to month, the very first month here. So we have 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, January, February, March, April, May, June, December. So everyone should have this. And then we're just going to drag sales on the rows. So this is what we should have for right now. Let me know if you guys do not. Because just like before, we're going to kind of build off of this. Give me 1 second. I'm going to actually double check on my own before I start teaching you guys something wrong. This is the right way to do it. Yep, okay. Sweet. So the good news is we won't have to worry about replacing and changing or replacing and changing like we did in the last one. Let's just go ahead and drag sales up here again. And in the second one here, hit the arrow, quick table calc, and we're going to do year-to-date total.
Just a heads up, your screen froze again.
Oh, okay. Let me stop sharing. All right, you guys have this? Live? Cool. All right, so we have sum of sales at the top. We drag that back on there again. We changed it from, we did quick table calc, year-to-date total. So what this is doing, and the reason that on our other one here, right in this table format, if we tried to do quick date total or quick tape calculations, these bottom four were grayed out. The bottom four on here only work when you're working with dates. So just like in the show me thing here, how some of these are grayed out, you need dates to work with those bottom four quick table calcs. And this one specifically is year-to-date total. So what this is doing, actually, does anyone know what table calc did we just cover that basically this is doing the same exact thing? Anyone tell?
Running total.
Running total, yep. Compute, pane, which way? If we were to do it,
Across.
yep, pane across, exactly. So we brought sales back up here. You guys don't have to do this because I'm gonna get rid of it. But just did, quick table calc, running total. Right, see how it's constantly going up and to the right now because it's not resetting. So we changed that from compute using pane across. This is the same exact thing here.
On your month, I have more months listed. Did I do something? Maybe I missed your months.
No, I'm guessing mine just aren't showing all of them. So I do have a January there.
Okay.
Your screen's probably just a different size. If I did entire view, yeah, they should pop in there.
Okay, cool.
All right, so let's bring sales back up here again. And now this one, let's change this to year-over-year growth. So what year-over-year growth is doing is it's looking at where we're at this point in the previous year. So it's comparing January 2014 to January 2015 and saying, okay, that's 27% growth, right? Then comparing February 2014 to February 2015 and saying, okay, that's 164% growth. Then in March here, we had 55,000 in 2014 and only 38,000 in 2015, right? So then that's a negative % growth here. So obviously we don't have it for 2014. So what would be the equivalent of the ones that we just covered in this top section here that we're looking at now?
Can't answer the question again.
What would be the equivalent of one of the ones that we just covered that we're doing here, where we're looking at what happened in 2015, looking at what happened in 2014. We're showing the % growth here. There was something that we covered in the last section here, up here.
Would it be your % difference in sales?
Bingo. Yep, % difference. Now, the reason that this is really handy and the reason that there's a totally different section for date stuff is that % difference, right? This isn't necessarily looking at the one above it, right? Or the one right next to it here. It's skipping essentially 12 different cells and skipping a pane here to compare January to January. So Tableau, instead of having to make you tweak all those with the kind of default quick table calcs, when you're working with dates, it just gave you some really, really simple ones that automatically know you're going to compare a January to a January, a February to a February, and not have to worry about counting back 12 or whatever you want to do. So that's why these are in a separate category here. They're the same calculations. It just makes it plug and play really, really easy when you're working with dates because it knows what January is and it knows what years are. All right, so the very last one here. Let's bring sales back up here one last time. Click the arrow. And do year-to-date growth. Does anyone want to take a stab? It sounds very similar at year-over-year growth, which is comparing January to January, February to February, so on and so forth. Anyone want to take a stab on what year-to-date growth would be doing?
Well, we can. It'd be kind of the same thing. It'd be over last year, but growth for the full year as opposed to month over month.
Bingo. So it's looking at not just our individual months, January to January, it's looking at essentially the running sum and comparing those. So in January, obviously they're the same, which is why, well, I mean, it would be the same as the year-over-year growth. But then in February, right, we added another one. In March, we added another one. So now it's looking at year to date. So from January to March, for example, how many sales do we have in March, and from January to March, our running total compared to the previous year, and showing the percent difference there. So it's similar, but looking at the year to date, the running total. So now essentially, and again, this is why it made a separate kind of 4 categories at the bottom for dates, is we're doing a quick table calc on top of the quick table calc. So we're doing a running total, and then we're doing a percent difference of that running total, compute across 12 different panes, right? So it gets really, really convoluted and tricky if we were trying to do it with just the default ones, which is why it has those bottom date time ones to make it really, really simple there. Any questions about those 3? All right. Now to get back to the fun stuff a little bit of DataViz, let's go ahead and just clean this up a bit, because there are a couple kind of key concepts in here, and these are things that we're going to be working with, or that you guys will be working with a ton. Notice over here on our marks, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different, well, 5, you include all of them in 5 individual tabs here. That's because we have 1 overall one, 4 individual tabs, because we have 4 things on our rows. So let's just go in and change the colors of each of these just to make it look a little more appealing. Maybe sum of sales, we're going to keep black because that's kind of our foundation. Maybe this one we're going to change to like a nice orange or something. It doesn't really matter. So just click through each of these different tabs. You can see that you can change the color and the formatting of each of these. Then let's go in, once you get some colors you like, let's double click on the axis. That's how we're going to be able to change our axis labels, if you'll remember. So just clean them up a little bit. Maybe this one I just call running sum. Doesn't matter, whatever you guys think makes sense, but just to get rid of a lot of the percentage signs and parentheses and stuff. This third one was year-over-year growth, so I'd probably change it to that. The last one here was year-to-date growth. Of course, going all the way back to like night 2, I'm going to get rid of this order date up here, so I'm going to right-click on that and hide it. I hate full month names here. They're way too long. So if you right-click on that and choose Format, you can see where it says Dates January. You can choose like an abbreviation. You can do first number, first letter if you wanted, or numeric, or the full name, or automatic, whatever. But I always just choose abbreviation. I think that makes it look a little cleaner.
Wait, how did you get there? What month?
Yep, just right-click on your month names down here, and you can right-click on any of them, just choose Format, and then this should pop over on the left. Yep. Another chart type that doesn't follow the data inc ratio very well, but I always think looks kind of cool. If we want to change one of these, I'm going to change the second one, the running sum. Instead of automatic, I'm going to choose area. I always think that these look kind of fancy, even though it's literally showing the same exact thing. But maybe an area chart would be good here to convey that it's like building up over time. They're not individual months. So you can change that if you wanted. maybe in our year-over-year growth, we want a bar chart actually. Because this does a better job conveying of like, hey, this isn't adding up over time, they're individual months. This is just January compared to January. This is just February compared to February. Just suggestions on how to do some different things. I'm not actually sure if this is a good way to display or not. Just so we have 4 different things on here, maybe we change this to like a, let's choose, oh yeah, shape.
Pretty sure you froze again.
And then this will allow you to click into the shapes here. Maybe we want to change it to, you can see just like arrow or just like the colors, you can choose more shapes. You can click around and find one.
I think you're frozen.
My computer is, oh, there we go. Yeah, I think this looks pretty nice. Maybe the last thing I would do is go in, right click somewhere, format, go over those lines, just get rid of the row grid lines. Just clean it up a bit more. And then I guess last step here, just be renaming this. Let's go sales, KPIs. KPIs stand for key performance indicators.
Is anybody else's
okay,
screen
Patrick just
frozen?
messaged me, my screen's frozen. You guys can't hear me?
I can
No.
hear you.
We can hear you, but we told you about the frozen screen and you didn't do anything, so I wasn't sure you could hear us.
No, I could not. My bad. How long ago did that happen? Don't say half an hour.
3 minutes?
Oh, okay. Well, 3 minutes, I was just kind of poking around. I just went through each one of these and just changed the chart type. So I changed this one to an area chart. I changed this one to a bar chart. I changed this one to just be shapes, just to give it a little bit more flavor on here. And then I right-clicked it somewhere and hit format and went over the lines just to get rid of those row grid lines. And then I just renamed it sales KPIs. Cool. Any questions about anything on the screen right here?
Can you explain the year-to-date a little bit more?
Yeah. So year-over-year growth is just looking at individual months. So it's looking at what January was here. Let's go ahead and. So it's looking at this 18,000 in January 2015 versus the 14,000 in January 2014 and saying, okay, 18,000 is 27% more. And then it's looking at February, so 11,000 versus 4,000, right? That's 164% more. So it's looking at year over year, year in January versus year in February. Year to date, that to date is essentially a calendar running total. So it's saying like right now we are in the last day of September. So year to date is everything leading up to September. So it's essentially just a running total. So instead of comparing individual months like you would year over year, year to date, you're going to compare where you're at that point in the year compared to where you're at that point of the year. So you're doing the running total first and then comparing kind of year over year to that point. So let's look at September, since we're in September right now. Year over year would show this 64,000 in September compared to this 81,000 in September, which is why we're showing a negative year-over-year growth. However, in the running total, we had 288,000 in September 2015. It's also going to be negative, but 304,000 in September 2014. So that would be comparing everything up to that point. Does that make sense?
The same. Is it just, you just compare those two dates and then on the other one you compare everything in between?
Yes. Yep. So in year over year, we'd just be looking at these two numbers. This is September. This is September. So that would be year over year right here. Just those two numbers. For year to date, we'd be comparing everything up to that number and everything up to that number, which is what the running sum is doing, right? It's adding all these up over time to give us our running sum. That's everything up to that point, year to date, and then comparing what the running sum number is. So year to date would just be comparing the 64,000. The running sum would be comparing the 288,000. But yeah, they're very, very similar.
And these are also good examples on metrics that companies like to use at the end of the year when they're reviewing everything.
Yep.
And it's nice that when you clicked on one thing, it kind of referenced it in the other charts as well.
Yeah, that was cool. I actually didn't know it was going to do that. Okay, I try to balance heavy nights, heavy thinking nights with shorter time frames. So I promise I'm not just letting you guys out because I'm lazy. I know that that was a lot to cover. I also want to make sure that you guys have plenty of time to work on the homework assignment because I think this is kind of fun and I want to give you some creativity to go out and think about how you would structure. This is a database homework assignment and kind of a data engineering homework assignment because how you structure the data matters so much for what you do in Tableau, right? In my, how easy was this to bring into Tableau because it was structured this way, right? I drug name over there, I dragged rated chart over there, I drug score over there, and I was done, right? But I very easily could have done something like this, where I put like, here's all our different names, Charlie, Audrey, Bob, right? And then I could have put like favorite chart over here. And everyone could have gone through and done bar, line, then they could have done rankings and typed in whatever they wanted here, right? If I would have structured it this way, obviously I was looking at the table here. You can easily read what this says, but think about what would have happened when I brought this in Tableau, right? These are my column names, Charlie, Audrey, Bob. If I brought Charlie on there, these two things would have populated in there. So you can see how it wouldn't have worked in Tableau at all. And there's nothing worse than getting an Excel or something like that and seeing data structured in a weird way. So think through how you're going to bring it into Tableau, what you're going to want to visualize. Try to make it like, well, I don't want this to be a waste of time. Think through something that you actually want to track or you think that would be cool to dive into. But also don't spend a ton of time on it. I totally understand. This is on top of everything else that you guys are working on. So in summation, we're done early because I know it's a lot, and I also want to make sure that you guys have plenty of time to work on the homework. So I know those are really, really loose guidelines, meant to be that way. Create some data, build something, publish to Tableau. Any questions about this assignment?
Do you, as far as all the things that we learned, is there anything in particular that you want us to incorporate into the assignment, like the calculated fields or the different ways to see the same text like we're looking at now?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. No need to force anything that isn't what you guys want to track. Hopefully you understand all the options that you have. You want to build something cool, but yeah, no. you could go in and do the same exact example that we just did. Publish it, publish it. You're still learning how to set up data, how to bring it in.
So basically, when we're making our charts, we should copy the superstore for lack of perfection.
That is definitely structured in a way that makes it really, really easy to work with. I'd say the biggest thing, and I might actually start adding a section on this early on in this class, is what they call long versus wide data. So Tableau works really, really well with long data. What that means is you have a few different columns and you add in all your data going down, because you need your column titles, right? Your column titles are what you bring in for your dimensions and measures. Now, wide means that you have a ton of different columns, and so like this would be an example of a wide table here, is where instead of having Charlie, Audrey, and Bob all in one column, I put it all in one row, so it's wide. Because now my data is the name of my columns, and so it's really hard to work with Tableau with. But you'd be surprised, you don't ever think about that. You can still read the data in an Excel like this. So I'm probably going to add a night moving forward here on long versus wide data and the pros and cons of each. But yeah, Superstore data is a really, really good example of long data, because yeah, it has a column name and then everything underneath it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so in Excel, you know how, well, okay, in Tableau, how you can change the rows and columns. Is there an easy way to do that with Excel?
Gosh.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it does. There is, right? You can do, no, there's not an easy way. There is a way, right? If we have, what you do is you highlight this, copy it, and then if you right click, there's this transpose button to paste it. So right click paste, and then that would essentially turn it the other way. I wonder if you do it, I actually don't know if you can do it for a full table at a time. Yeah, you can, just like that. So you just copy it and then just paste it, transpose. Did that answer your
Sounds
question?
really cool. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Did you have something?
I was just gonna ask you, I don't have Excel, I only have numbers.
Oh, interesting.
So everything I'm doing is coming from the numbers app.
Oh, do you just connect it when you, like your Superstore data, is that in numbers?
Yeah, it just like Apple automatically changes everything over to like a numbers format.
Yeah,
And then you can-
but Tableau connects to it.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, no worries at all. All right, any other questions?
Basically what we're doing for the homework, find data or use the Superstore data then do the quick table calculation,
Create your own data.
create your own.
Yep.
Okay.
And then make anything. So you don't have to worry about a quick table calcs.
So we're just building on data, basically.
Yeah. So tonight we'll be focused on like setting up and structuring your data in a way to easily bring it in to Tableau. So thinking through how you want it structured to build something. If you wanted to build it in Google Drive or Google Sheets or whatever, and make it live or whatever, feel free to do that as well too. But yeah, tonight really just focusing on doing something that you care about, something that you want to track, making the data, and then yeah, building something.
Another question since we're done.
Yeah.
I seen like a website that was saying you can connect data live. So like you can connect like a store or app or whatever your company uses to it, and then it automatically will update in real time. And
Mhm.
go straight over to your Tableau object.
Yeah.
How could we be able to do that for something like this?
So Tableau Public, so you're just asking if like you could connect to a tool?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tableau Public won't let you. I don't think there's ways. Yeah. So that's what I was showing at the beginning. Like in Tableau servers, what we use at Builder Trend. I can connect, this is my Tableau server, it looks exactly the same, but when I hit new or hit more here, these are all the different things by default I can connect to. So like we use Salesforce is our CRM. I can connect directly to that. If I wanted to bring in Google BigQuery, which is where we keep like our data warehouse, I can connect to that. We're actually migrating over to Snowflake, which I'm excited about. So yeah, there are ways to connect directly to a tool and pull in the data straight from that tool, just not in Tableau Public. Cool. Anything else? I will.
One quick question.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit lost. So what we did tonight, it's just a different way of doing calculations compared to last week?
Yeah. So everything that we did tonight was, I mean, there's a little bit of thinking, right? You still have to understand pane down and table cross and stuff like that, but they're the out of the box. Actually, I did have a nice slide in my PowerPoint that I skipped. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so I created, this is one of the fields that we created last week was like, I'm trying to think what I want to call it, and it doesn't matter. Let's call it last month's sales. Right, we did this, lookup was the name of it, and we did sum of sales. And then we said -1, right? This is something that we did last week. Where this was just taking whatever sales on the line above it was and bringing it down so we could do percent difference and stuff like that. Tableau actually pops up this little blue don't be an idiot warning down here that says, hey, this is the default table calculation, basically telling you you don't have to create this on your own. We've already done it for you. And so, yeah, a lot of the things that we typed in last week would have had this little thing here that would have said, hey, you can just use this doing a quick table calc. All right. Any more questions on the homework? I know it doesn't necessarily pertain to the quick table calcs, but that's fine. I think it's way more fun. So that's why we're going to do it. And it'll be a good example and use case for you guys to think through how you want to structure data from start to finish, as opposed to just getting a data set handed to you and making something work.
Does it have to be super big, or can we just
No.
small thing?
Yeah, totally fine. It could be 3 rows if you want to. Just try to make it somewhat thoughtful. Like, how would you actually use it in your life? Don't just put fake stuff in there like favorite bar charts or pies and stuff like that. Cool. I will be sticking around, as always, for the next hour. You guys do not have to stick around. Just whenever you get it done, shoot me the Tableau public link, and I will review them before Wednesday. We'll do our show and tell as normal. I was actually gonna look ahead at what we have next week. Ooh, next week we start getting some really fun stuff. Who does I work? I think Luke, maybe you. There's a new pane that we haven't even dipped into yet called the analytics pane.
Oh, yeah, you talked about that.
And there's some cool drag and drop features that we have over here, including some machine learning algorithms, K-means clustering, forecasting, confidence intervals, stuff like that. So we'll start doing some pretty neat and fancy data science stuff on Wednesday.
Cool.
Sweet. If you guys are dipping out, thank you guys very much. I'll see you Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll just be sitting here on my phone, so just chime in if you need something. I'll hop on. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
I wanted to ask this question, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with class. That's
Right.
But do you invest in stocks and stuff?
Do I?
Invest in the stock market?
I don't do a whole lot of like individual investments. No, I just toss my stuff into like 401ks and Roth and stuff.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering.
I have in the past, I'm aware.
I was just wondering if there's a way that you can use this knowledge to your advantage when like investing, because it seems like it could offer you some different type of insights to help you understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I did something for my MBA a couple years ago. Let's see if I still have it. It was like 4 years ago, so I'm probably not gonna like how it looks. But we did, oh, there we go. So at the time, both Tableau and Salesforce were publicly traded stocks. After this happened, Salesforce actually acquired Tableau, so they're one company now. And I believe Salesforce's ticker is CRM. Yeah, CRM. So they're one company now. But yeah, this was for my MBA, and I basically went through, you can just go out and download any company you want, their 10K earnings, and like go through it like their investment reports. So if I go to like annual reports, you can download this.
Can we do this for our homework?
Yeah, for sure. And there's lots of good stuff in here. Your table of contents. So if I go to part 2 financial statements on page 68. Right, like here's all their revenue and assets and liabilities and margins and EBITDA and all that good stuff. So what I did was I brought in both Tableau's and Salesforce's and looked at just like their liquidity, the quality of earnings, average collection period, asset turnover ratio, and just compared them side by side. So you can see like Salesforce, let's see, quick ratio, quality of earnings. It's been a while since I took that class, so I don't remember what all these things are. But yeah, you can pull all this stuff in and visualize it in Tableau, which gives you a really like easy sneak peek preview into, so yeah, if you wanted to go out and find a company you're interested in, pull some stuff down, make some charts. I'm not a financial advisor.
This is for educational purposes.
Educational purposes. Yeah, I love that you